If you guys have watched my videos over the years and my reviews over the years, you will notice I have a wide variety of music that I've loved, some I hated, but some of the ones have a particular meaning to me, you know what I'm saying? So with this couple of videos, I'm going to be counting down my top game-changing albums. Now keep in mind, this is not my top albums of all time, more like top game-changing albums, the album that had an influence on me. Some of them you're going to be surprised, some of them you might be expected to see. So at the same time, here's to further ado, let's get this shit started. Hello, how y'all doing? So we're gonna start off this first episode with a yacht rock classic. To be real with you, this is the Doobie Brothers with their eighth studio album, Minute by Minute. You know what I'm saying? I want to say this one is actually their third album that they did with Michael McDonald and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I think of yacht rock and stuff like that, or that soft rock of the late 70s, early 80s, this is the album that pretty much this is the album that pretty much comes to my mind and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Keep in mind the Doobie Brothers, where a lot of people want to say Doobie Brothers, Doobie Brothers pre Michael McDonald was an entirely different band. I feel like the Doobie Brothers really had one of the most interesting histories when it came to music, because a lot of people want to say that like the earlier stuff was more rock heavy and stuff like that too, which to a sense they were, but they were still like experimenting with like southern rock and gospel and stuff like that. You know, songs like listen to the music, Jesus is just all right. You know what I'm saying? And when Michael McDonald came, I want to say during the Taking It to the Streets album from 1976, you know, they were already experimenting with that funk rock kind of sound as early back as like maybe 73, 74. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta also remember Michael McDonald was also affiliated with Steely Dan, another quote unquote yacht rock. Even though I don't personally, I mean, yeah, I mean you can say they were yacht rock to a sense too, like their mid to late '70s stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna get more into Steely Dan later on in this series and shit. You know, spoiler alert. But back to Minute by Minute, this was a very dope album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I personally feel like they were still the same band that they were in the previous years. You know, songs like "What a Fool Believes," it has that Michael McDonald bounce, like that ding 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 ding. Which once that song came out, a lot of songs really try to do that shit. Watch that Yacht Rock documentary on HBO Max. Very dope documentary, to be real with you. And then you have songs like the title track, Minute by Minute by Minute by Minute, I keep holding on. I love that record. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Don't Stop to Watch the Wheels and stuff like that. That was pretty dope and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And is this their best album? I'm I'm gonna definitely say yes, but I'm gonna put a star to that right now because I'm gonna be real with you. The Doobie Brothers, they're a group I have to actually be listening to their discography and everything like that too. But the genius of Michael McDonald really transcended the band and stuff, and I feel like definitely this album was possibly their peak though. But yeah. And my number 12 is the Rolling Stones with Exile on Main Street. This is actually a 10th studio album that came out May 12th, 1972. You know, if you watch my channel, I've done a review on Sticky Fingers. I said Sticky Fingers was my favorite album from them. Now it's like really my second favorite because Exile, I had an interesting story with this album. When I was really getting into the Rolling Stones, everyone always said that this was the album this was the album that was the true definition of their style and everything like that too. Which again, yeah, I fucking love it. But it was the dirtiness of this album that I remember when I first heard it. I was like, 'Cause like I said, I was more Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, and everything like that. But then over the years, I've came to appreciate this album because when I think about this album, I call it the Rolling Stones' letter to black music. All the black music that they were influenced by. Like this album has soul, it has blues, has a little bit of gospel, a little bit of country, a little bit of boogie woogie, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And the fact of the matter was that they were actually in France when they did this album, because they were actually tax exiles and stuff like that too. And the studio that they recorded this album at was more like a low budget studio and stuff like that. And it's funny too because that's what really made the dirtiness of this album. Like when you hear the riff to Rocks Off and everything like that too. And then you get into the soulfulness of songs like Tumbling Dice, Happy. Two of my all-time, excuse me, favorite singles the Rolling Stones ever came out with, especially Happy. The way Keith Richards has sung that song, I need a love to keep me happy, baby. Da 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 da. The fucking horns. It's those horns and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Da 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 da. Da da da. I love it. And honestly, Bobby Keys, man. I mean, he's an honorary member of the Stones. His saxophone playing really added a touch of sophistication to the group and everything. And then you have songs like "Shine a Light," which the last side definitely had a more gospel blues feel to it and everything. My favorite track, "I Just Want to See His Face." I mean, very, very, very dope record. I'm saying the way how mixed voice was on that record and everything like that too was so fucking dope. And it's funny too because it's like people have also came out and said, "Oh shit, the Stones never really topped Exile and stuff like that." They may creatively, they may have not topped Exile, but they still held it on. 'Cause I still love albums like Some Girls from '78, the Tattoo You from '81, of course. You know what I'm saying? But Exile on Main Street was just that album where it was just like they were definitely in sync with one another. That's the true definition of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Exile on Main Street. Number 13 is going to be "To Pimp a Butterfly" by Kendrick Lamar. This is his third studio album that came out March 15, 2015. The story with this album, I remember this album when it came out. I remember this. It came out a few days earlier than what it was supposed to have came out. Within 30 minutes later, everyone started calling this album the greatest hip hop album of all time. And I was like, damn, did he really talk Good Kid, Mad City and everything like that too? And I heard it. I played it 5 times after I played the album because you gotta remember this album came out really at the pinnacle of this whole Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? It's claimed as like a modern. Fuck it. I'm gonna call it a hip hop classic. I don't give a damn what people say. This was the album that people needed at this time and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just the jazziness of this record. You know what I'm saying? It was very different because Good Kid, Mad City, very dope album. But you can definitely see the West Coast influence with this one. This one you can definitely see the West Coast influence, but it's like Kendrick was influenced by like jazz and DJ Quick's music and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I've never to this day I've never heard an album like this. We have songs like King Kunta and everything like that too, which is dope as banger right there. All right, which I feel like now is like an anthem at this point. You know what I'm saying? How much a dollar costs? When he was talking about like homelessness and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, Damn, I can go on and on. These if these walls can talk, classic record right there. I love that record. I mean, there's not a bad track on this album. To be real with you, you know what I'm saying? This to this day is actually my favorite Kendrick album and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? It's like the generation gap that this album recognized and stuff like that. Like you had a lot of the older heads recognized. You had a lot of the younger heads being influenced by this album as well too. You know what I'm saying? So like Pimple Butterfly, fucking masterpiece. Number 14, we got another West Coast classic, Dr. Dre, The Chronic. I'm gonna be real with you. This album came out December 15, 1992. You cannot be a quote unquote hip hop head if you have not heard The Chronic. This is the album that rejuvenated hip hop. This album came out late 1992. By March to April 1993, everybody was trying to rap like this album. Everybody was trying to make beats like this album. Everybody was trying to have posse. Well, I'm not gonna say posse cuts, but a lot of producers wanted or acts wanted to do like in-house and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? This is the album that really birthed the whole Death Row Empire and shit. Introduced us to many acts like Daz Dillinger, Corrupt, the Dog Pound, RBX, Jewel, rest in peace to Jewel, Lady of Rage, and another a rapper, that was pretty much on half the songs. I think his name was like Snoop Doggy Dog and everything like that too. So it definitely, it definitely introduced a lot of cats on this album. And first of all, before I even get to the songs, the production, which has been a source of controversy in years, which I'm gonna get into that in a minute. Like the way how Dre just had his own flow with the samples and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? And it's crazy too because when a lot of people used to sample records, like especially from like Parliament and Funkadelic, they would pretty much just take the sample, replay it a couple times, fuck with the pitch, yada yada yada. What Dre did, add the instrumentations, and sometimes having the band replay the songs and shit like that too. I mean, once you hit them synths, ooh, fucking fire. You know what I'm saying? As a kid listening to this album, it just blew my mind how amazing it was sonically. It was and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? First of all, the Chronic intro. Whew, don't even get me started on the intro. Like top 5 intros in hip hop history. And then even the way how Snoop was talking shit, how it led to arguably one of the best diss tracks of all time, Fuck with Dre Day, and everybody celebrating when they were just going after Easy E, Tim Dog, and Uncle Luke. You know what I'm saying? Because the shit that Dre had to go through just to get this album released, get out of his contract. Well, technically, let me stop. He was still under his contract with Ruthless, but we all know the story with that. You know what I'm saying? And this whole album, because you gotta remember, when if you talk to like a lot of the hip hop heads or people who grew up with hip hop during like its beginning, I'm talking about seeing the Sugar Hill Gang perform Rapper's Delight, seeing LL Cool J on Bandstand and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing hip hop from its origins. You would notice how whenever some people say hip hop between such and such year, they'll pretty much say after 92, 93. They don't really want to acknowledge that because a lot of people have said that, the Chronic was like that beginning of a second wave, which people want to call from like 92, maybe to like 97, 98, another era in itself. Me personally, I'm a lover of all hip hop. I can listen to this album and still bump Run DMC and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? And people, of course, want to talk about the lyrics, how it was more misogynistic. I'm just like, I've heard worse, man. You know what I'm saying? But it also brings me to the whole production because in recent years, people have also said, like, people said that Dre didn't redo all the beats of this album and stuff like that. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be 100% real, and I'm gonna take what Snoop said in an interview one time. He said he may have had help with certain beats, but by the time Dre had his hand on literally all the beats, he would take that to a whole nother level. And it kind of reminds me with albums like Supreme Clientele from Ghostface, because you gotta remember with that album, Supreme Client, that album had a lot of ghost producers like Juju from the Beat Nuts and stuff like that. But then RZA had his hand on literally all the beats because he finished up all the album and stuff too. So that's just my take on it. You know what I'm saying? But there's been so many videos about the whole production controversy of Chronic. I don't even want to get into it. I just want to recognize the impact they had on my life. So yeah, that's the Chronic. Another West Coast classic. Well, hip hop classic again. Snoop Doggy Dogg with Doggy Style. If the Chronic was the album that pretty much made Death Row Records the household name, Doggy Style was the album that made Death Row Records the most notorious hip hop label of all time, to say the least. This might be the most anticipated debut or album in hip hop history. And it's funny because I remember when I got this album, I ordered it from Amazon and I actually got the OG copy, but I didn't know about the whole OG copy shit because the dude I thought I was buying it from, I thought I was buying like the 2001 reissue and stuff like that. But the way I got it, it didn't have the front cover, which to this day I still have to get the album with the original cover, just for fuck's sake, or even get like the booklet. I don't give a fuck. But I got like the OG copy, and it has songs like G's Up, Hoes Down, which I'm gonna get more into that song in a minute and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because there was actually a misprint in track listing and stuff like that, which I've talked about that on my review and stuff. But Doggy Style was just an album that I personally feel was just phenomenal to this day. I still bump that album heavily to this day. You know what I'm saying? And I saw that Pitchfork put that number 100 on their list. I don't even want to talk about that shit. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you have songs like Gin and Juice. You know what I'm saying? Which I feel like that was really the song that made me want to hear the album and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Ain't No Fun If the Homie Can Have None. One of the all-time greatest posse cuts with the late great Nate Dogg, Warren G, and Corrupt. You know what I'm saying? Then you have songs like Doggy Dog World, which that's actually my favorite single from the album. Not my favorite song though, because a lot of people want to say Gin and Juice and What's My Name, but to me, when I think of Doggy Dog World, I think of a song that I say have that perfect Death Row style, like funky beat, star power lyricist. You know what I'm saying? Just the in your face attitude of it all and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I personally feel that. Oh, of course. How can I forget it? Legendary Soul Sample. You have the Dramatics. Yes, the fucking Dramatics. Legendary soul group. You know what I'm saying? Legendary soul group and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Who by that time commercially, I mean, I think that by that time they were kind of like going through a personnel limbo. But when they appeared on that record, that kind of like brought a lot of their popularity back and stuff like that too. And that also led to like Snoop, doing shit with like Charlie Wilson and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. I mean, the Shiznit, I love another record I fucking love. He even did a cover of Lottie Dottie, you know, from Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick and everything like that too. You know, just showing people that Snoop was also a student of the game despite the heavy braggadocio. So yeah, man, I personally believe that Doggy Style had that star power and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? And I actually might love it a bit more than Chronic and shit. You know, but hey, it is what it is. All right, I think now we're at number 16, the late great Notorious B.I.G. with Life After Death. This was his second and unfortunately his final studio album that came out March 25th, 1997, approximately a little over 2 weeks after he got murdered. So, this was actually the first hip hop album I actually bought with my own money and everything. But I actually bought two copies of this album. The first copy, this is back when I was a little after I had to buy the clean version because you know my mom was like, can't listen to no music with no cursing, and I was disappointed with the clean version because it was a single disc and a lot of my favorite tracks was not on that disc, and I was so fucking pissed off. So years later, especially when I started just make my own bread and stuff like that, I rebought this album, double disc, and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? So this was the album I personally feel artistically Biggie's best album. Keyword artistically. I feel like Ready to Die might be lyrically is well, that's kind of hard. I think Ready to Die yeah, fuck it. Conceptually, his best album. Artistically, Life After Death is his best album. And this was really a turning point for hip hop because this was a mafioso rap album, but it was not like an only built for Cuban Links mafioso, a Reasonable Doubt mafioso. This had his grimy cuts, but it had a good mixture between the pop rap and, of course, like the grimy joints and shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It just showed the versatility of Biggie and everything like that too. You know, just that first song, Hypnotized alone, which that's to this day a banger. Some days I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit tired of hearing Hypnotized because you know what I'm saying. There's other Biggie songs that I like to hear personally at a party and shit, but sometimes when people play Hypnotized, it's just like okay, yeah, we get it. But at the same time, I'm never gonna dislike Hypnotized and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? And the way how he was flipping over that beat and everything, but the chorus and everything was just more mainstream and radio friendly. But it does have its grimy joints. Like for every Hypnotized, you have a song like Last Day featuring the Locks. You know what I'm saying? Which produced by Havoc. Um, it's funny too because the original beat, he actually lost the original dats of that song, so he actually had to redo the beat. So to this day, man, if I can hear that original dat to that song, oh my god, that would be crazy. And that's probably like '96 Havoc, like Hell on Earth Havoc and shit. You know what I'm saying? My favorite, personally, my favorite era of his production. And then you have songs like More Money, More Problems, which that's an iconic song itself. You know what I'm saying? That's actually one of the first hip hop songs I ever actually heard growing up too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, every time I think of that song, I think of the video with Maze and the Diddler and that shiny suit video and stuff like that. And it just captured that time and everything like that too. And yeah, I know Diddy, yeah, we already know about him and shit like that too. But at the same time, when I listen to like those old Bad Boy albums and stuff like that my favorite years from Bad Boy, honestly, it would be like '94 to 1999, 2000. Those are like my favorite years from Bad Boy. Anything after 2000 is kind of hit or miss for me and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? Especially when Arista was not the parent company anymore and shit. Which that's another story for a different day and shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. I definitely fuck with this album, Life After Death. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this just and then sometimes when people talk about this album, they sometimes get like a dislike for this album because of the fact that this whole shiny suit era killed hip hop and yada yada yada. I'm tired of that shit anyway. But yeah, Life After Death, Biggie, classic. Number 17, we got Madonna with Erotica. Now, this might be a surprise to many people, but if you guys watch me over the years, you know how much I have a deep love for this album. This album came out October 20th, 1992. You know what I'm saying? This was the era when I felt like she was definitely at the peak of her creativity. Like, after the whole Like a Prayer album and everything like that, too, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what is she going to do next and everything? She was just going in on this album and everything like that, too, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy because she definitely recorded a good majority of this like in New York and everything, which explains that sound and everything because she was kind of going through that whole dance house sound, starting with like the Vogue song and shit like that too. I personally feel that but yeah, it definitely captured. She was definitely going for that sound, that house sound, like around that time, especially when she did songs like "Justify My Love," which fucking love that song. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy too because outside that time, she also had her label and production, her company, Maverick, and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Which I think this was the first album that came out from Maverick. And yeah, man, this album, oh my god, the title track Erotica. I mean, a very, very, very dope song. Love the way how that beat goes, you know what I'm saying? And then the way how they slid in that Cool in the Gang sample. I'm not gonna say which sample it is, y'all should know, but it was one of the best samples I've heard in any track I've heard, you know what I'm saying? Um Bye Bye Baby, which she kind of went a little New Jack Swing on that song right there, you know what I'm saying? What's that one track? In This Life. That was a tribute to a friend that died from I think HIV and everything. Bad Girl, classic song. The video too was very good. Christopher Walken was also in that video and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, man, this album, and this album, I feel like this album gets overshadowed because she also dropped that infamous Sex book and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Which again, very, very, very controversial book. And I feel like at the time, the album really did really do as I mean, it did well commercially, but the controversy kind of overshadowed it. But then over the years, it became more of like a cult classic, especially during like the mid to late 2000s, 20 teens. A lot of people really took a page from this album and stuff like that. So that's my number 17, Erotica. So my number 18, we're gonna go from Erotica to Young Gifted and Black. That's crazy. Okay, so Aretha Franklin. This album is actually her 18th studio album, and arguably my favorite Aretha album. Keyword arguably. This was really the album where she actually definitely had more control really with the writing and everything like that too. Because like when she came to Atlantic Records and stuff, I mean, her popularity definitely grew more. Because I think the label she was on previously, I want to say she was on Columbia, and they were trying to market her more like a R&B jazz. But then when she came to Atlantic Records, she definitely had that more gospel influenced tone and stuff like that too. And yeah, this album definitely had a lot more songs written by Aretha Franklin this time around and shit. two of her most iconic ones was Daydreaming and Rocksteady, which I fucking love and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Rocksteady, man, that's a funky ass track and shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, and you know she definitely had her own covers of songs too, like her cover of Nina Simone's "Young, Gifted, and Black," which all of my Heavy D fans, y'all should know about that record and everything. You know what I'm saying? She had a very underrated cover of the Delphonics "Did Not Blow Your Mind This Time," which I felt like that was pretty good. And it's definitely one of the albums from 1972 that I personally feel that definitely captured that year. Because 72 was a very dope year for like soul and R&B's albums like Curtis Mayfield's Superfly, Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man. Um, you know what I'm saying? Just a good variety and stuff like that too. I'm trying to think more. I'm having a brain fart right now and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Oh wait, hold on. Stevie Wonder's Music of My Mind, Talking Book. I mean, wait, scratch. I think Music of My Mind. Excuse me, that came out 71. Talking Book came out 72. But y'all should know what I'm trying to say and shit. But yeah, Aretha Franklin, definitely the Queen of Soul. R.I.P. to her, legend. Number 19, we got De La Soul with De La Soul is Dead. This album came out 1991, May 14th to be exact. The complete antithesis of 3 Feet High and Rising, which sometimes I have to question that myself. You know what I'm saying? And I, and I'm definitely going to get into that in a minute. But let's get started with it. This was the second album that they came out with. The second album that was produced by the great Prince Paul and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? You know, De La Soul, they were tired of people calling them hippies, especially with the surprise success of Me, Myself, and I, which people got to realize that song was actually a parody song and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Making fun of the commercialism of hip hop and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people want to say, "Oh, it's definitely a peace song." I'm like, I mean, you can take it what it is and shit. Hell, even like even that whole album and shit like that definitely has some crazy lyrics and stuff like that too. But people sometimes definitely want to equate that album with like happy, uplifting, which again, 3 Feet High and Rising, I mean, it's not like a crazy dark album like a 6 Feet Deep, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to listen to the lyrics. But getting to De La Soul is Dead and everything like that too, you know what I'm saying? That was just like the complete antithesis of 3 Feet High and Rising, because it's just like the whole concept of the album was that like, how can I put this? The average hip hop listener would pretty much listen to this and think it's crap because it's not the commercialism that they were used to listening to. But really though, if you really listen to some songs from 3 Feet High and Rising, even like the official first song, Oodles of O's, it kind of sounds like it could have really been on 3 Feet High and Rising and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's a very clever song, and actually, that's actually the first De La Soul song I ever heard, because I used to have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, and anytime that song came out, I was just like, "Yo, this song is ill as fuck," and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Then you have other songs like "Ring Ring Ring," "Ha Ha Hey," and everything like that too, which definitely, again, had a very, the beat definitely sounds like it could have been recorded by like the brand new heavies or some shit like that too, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, that song is pretty much about how fans always want to come up to them talking about they have demos and shit like that too, you know what I'm saying? To me, it's like their cynical version of EPMD's "Please Listen to My Demo." That's the best way to describe it. And really, though, the word cynicism really captures the tone of the album, because a lot of songs definitely was like a biting critique on like the rising gangster rap and everything like that too. You know what I'm saying? Um, Even like some of the songs like with the more serious tone definitely had a more cynicism to it. You know what I'm saying? Like my brother's a bass head and shit like that. Afro connections in the Afro connections at a high five with one of my favorite songs on that Untold album, rapping bull don ba 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 ba. I'm just like that. That might be one of my all time top Prince Paul BTs ever done. But then again, for every song like that and everything like that, you know what I'm saying? You have like feel good tracks like fucking roller skating jam named Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Which I feel like that might be the most positive song they came out with and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It's the way how they threw in all them samples and stuff like that too. Very well constructed to say the least and everything. You know what I'm saying? So I sometimes go back and forth. What's my favorite day? Like, cause their first four albums to me are legendary, but it's either sometimes this one or Stakes is High. I go back to the most and shit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like conceptually, this might be their best album. You know what I'm saying? Conceptually, but yeah, De La Soul is dead. And finally, the final album of today is going to be Queen Latifah's "All Hail the Queen," still with the Native Tongues family and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? This album came out November 7th, 1989. This is the first album. You know, sometimes, you know, when it comes to Queen Latifah, a lot of people often neglect her role on the whole Native Tongues movement and shit like that, especially because, you know, towards the later of her music career, she formed a whole flavor unit, which was her own posse collective in its own self, you know, with like Apache, Naughty by Nature, and things of that nature. No pun intended. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely feel like when it came to All Hail the Queen, which I often feel like is her best album, one of the best debuts in hip hop and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this whole album is just fucking fire. It has a very slick mixture of hip hop, dance, a little bit of jazz too, which is kind of ahead of its time for 1989. See, that's the thing about the whole Native Tongues. They really definitely popularized like jazz and house and hip hop and everything like that. Especially the Jungle Brothers, like the second album, I think, done by the Forces of Nature. Even though my favorite is their first album, Straight from the Jungle, Straight Out of the Jungle, because the production on that is so fucking dirty. Done by the Forces of Nature might be my second favorite one and everything. You know what I'm saying? But even with not even just the Native Tongues, but even like Marley Marl himself experimented with house. And even though I'm not going to hold you the way Marley did it, with all due respect, I fuck with Marley Marl, but those are some of my least favorite productions, especially Roxanne Shantae's first album. But back to Queen Latifah though, well, this album was just so fucking very dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying? The songs like "Mama Gave Birth to the Soul Children," which featured De La Soul themselves and stuff like that. That was a favorite of mine. I love the songs like, you know, Inside Out. The last track on the album is actually my favorite one. You know, very jazzy. The late great 45 King definitely does the same with the production, especially when he guests on songs like a King and Queen, a King and a King and Queen creation and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel like this album was very instrumental in woman empowerment and hip hop and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, '89 was such a transitional year in hip hop. It's not even funny and everything. So yeah. So yes, that's actually the end of this video and stuff like that too. But we got three more parts coming up, so stay tuned on more. Thank y'all so much for watching. Peace.